Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for SpiegelMom Scraps to share with you my layout for August, or one of. And this is the layout. I created it using a mix of sequins to complement the pattern paper that I was working with. So I wanted to create a little bit of a scene. These pictures are of my family and I at Niagara Falls, and we were on the American side of the falls. And we went out on the Maid of the Mist boat tour where you had the potential to get very wet, and mist was falling. So I wanted to put those gray raindrops, and while it wasn't actually raining, they were there to mimic the somewhat overcast and mist from the boat there. So this stripe, which is from the Fancy Pants on Our Way collection from one of the scrap room kits, is what I chose for the basis of the colors. We are wearing blue ponchos that were given to us, and so there's a lot of blue in the picture, and I thought by using this rainbow-ish like paper, I was able to draw more color to the layout, and it also mimicked the rainbow that we did see from the boat over the falls that will be in other pictures. I also wanted this yellow because the yellow complements the blue very well, and just kind of pops that blue a little bit more, and again adds some color to the layout. That family card is a 3x8 card from In a Creative Bubble, and later on in this process video you will see I use some other elements from In a Creative Bubble. I have long been an In a Creative Bubble fan. Those are the other printables that I got there, and that is actually from a Feed Your Craft collaboration that was done with Geraldine from In a Creative Bubble. That is from the summer kit that I bought, I believe, last month in July. So the colors coordinate perfectly with both the Fancy Pants collection as well as the summer. I think it was summer. No, the 3x8 cards were something else. But they all coordinated perfectly. And by using that tag, it allows me to put a couple more layers. And so I don't want to even out all of the 3x8s and the pictures, but I did want to have fill in those negative spaces, those holes. So you can see in that picture of Mia and I, so that's the center picture there, there's a bit of a gap between that orange family 3x8 card, the photo, and that green card that I used there, journal space card, and that really bothered me, and I really wanted to fill that in, but I don't actually ultimately end up filling it in, because if I filled it in, it was just going to be with something, not something that necessarily served a purpose there. So you can see how I try and fill that space in, but it doesn't get, there's nothing that really works there. And so I have to learn to live with it and move on. But you will see that I get stuck with that gap and really do try and put other things there. So I print my photos from home. So these pictures they were actually initially, I want to say that they were 7x3, but by doing, was that 7x3? To be honest with you, I can't remember the size that they ultimately end up being, but I started with much larger photos, which left me very little room to be able to put other pattern papers in there and add some color to the layout. So I toyed with the idea of making it a 2-page spread, and I didn't like that idea. I really liked those 3 tall, skinny photos on one page telling one story there. And so this is actually probably the 4th print of these pictures, because I kept trying to shrink the pictures to try and get them to fit on the page with that 3x8 card that I had printed from In a Creative Bubble. And ultimately, this is the layout that I end up going with. My original intent when I created this layout was that Simple Stories chipboard frame there that says destination, I was going to make that a shaker pocket, and that shaker pocket was going to sit on top of that yellow piece of paper. However, that blue is not the same bright blue that is in everything else, and it didn't work. I couldn't make it work. It could have worked where it was where that blue tag is with the have smile will travel, but I didn't like it. And so ultimately I'm going to get rid of that frame. So here is where I toy with so that original sequence mix there, so the orange and the blue, is called puppy dog tails, and that's what was going to go into that frame to make the shaker frame. But as things evolve over time in the creation of the layout, I end up abandoning that idea and do something else with the sequence instead. So this is where I was like, well, maybe the sequence will look good up there, and then we'll put a few down the bottom, and that'll kind of just sprinkling of sequence will tie everything in together. But I have that gap down there, and I feel like it needs a little bit more weight down the bottom there. So I've pulled out some of these embellishments that come with my scrap room kit, and I have this compass rose. And I'm putting it on foam adhesive. And initially I'm going to put it up the top, right there, and then realize, nope, that's too much weight up there, and I like it down the bottom there, and it kind of fills in that large white gaping hole there. And that's when I decide that the circles in the polka dots of that yellow pattern paper will look really cool with sequins filled in occasionally here and there to kind of add more color. So you have the color of the sequins in that yellow with the color in the striped pattern paper on the left-hand side, and that to me brings everything together. So you've got that rainbow on the left and you've got that rainbow on the right, and that is sort of the uniting factor across the page there. So I was pleased with the way that that ended up turning out, and it's just a reminder to yourself when you're scrapbooking that just because you set out with a goal doesn't mean that that goal is always going to ultimately end up being what the finished product is going to look like, and sometimes you just kind of have to roll with it. So I put some green twine from the Twinery on my tag there from In a Creative Bubble, and then I'm going to use that Have Smile Will Travel because we are all smiling in the picture despite the fact that we did get wet and we were under the mist from, this was Horseshoe Falls, but we were having a good time, and that's all that really mattered. And I love the way that the scenery and the bits and pieces of the layout end up mimicking bits and pieces of our day and our excursion at Niagara Falls there. Because I used chipboard and I layered chipboard pieces, I had to use a little bit of foam underneath that second cloud that I put on top. Those clouds are from Studio Calico. So with the sequence mix, I ended up using 3 different mixes. I used Puppy Dog Tails, which consists of the orange and the navy, which complement the colors in that rainbow pattern paper. I also used Birthdays and Balloons, which incorporated the yellow and the light blue, and then One in a Million Melon, which incorporated the pink and the green into it. There is a little light purple sort of violet color, and I could have probably pulled, in fact I know I could have pulled a mix for that, but I was happy with the colors that were there, and they were the colors of the pattern papers that I ended up using, whereas I didn't really use any of that violet or that purple color, so I just left that be. So I do my usual trick here with the sequence application where I put a drop of quick dry adhesive using my fine tip glue gun, fine tip applicator, and then just pick up the adhesive with the end of it and then plop it down on top. So I am going to work on the title for this now, and the title of this layout is Made of the Mist, which is exactly what is actually on those ponchos that we are wearing, and it's the name of the boat that we were on. So the center letters in the yellow of the are from Simple Stories, and now I'm digging through my puffy stickers from Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm going to go with the gray because that way the gray at the bottom in the title ties together the gray at the top, which is those raindrops up there. So that, my friends, is my second layout for the month of August for SpiegelMom Scraps, and I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them down in the box below. If you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be great, and if you don't subscribe to my personal channel, I would love to see you over there. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.